What is up, Felix here, and I really wanted to tackle this one for a while. For the last couple of days I've been playing around with the SYNTRX by Erica Synths, and I really fell in love with the patch matrix and the sound of the very rich oscillators here, which I think are, just sound particularly gorgeous. However, it's possible for sine wave and saw wave to sound gorgeous. This one succeeds. Anyways, I thought it would be a good idea to actually do a whole dedicated video on the idea of a patch matrix, because obviously the SYNTRX is not the only synth using it. There's also the matrix brute or polybrute, for example, by Arturia, and of course the classic EMS Synthi, which was also the main inspiration for the SYNTRX. So let's have a look at the patch matrix, create a patch from scratch, and I guess by the end of it, anybody should be able to understand the basic idea.
All right, here we are. And as you can see in the middle here, we have obviously the patch matrix. But before we get into that, let's have a look at all of the other components for a very brief moment. Obviously, oscillator 1, 2, and 3, third of which is an LFO, noise generator, sample and hold, envelope, trapezoid it's called here. It's a weird kind of envelope, filter, ring modulator, reverb, which is a spring reverb in this case, mixer section, and a beautiful joystick. And actually, this is a synth with built-in speakers, each of which you can turn on and off, and a VU meter. And now let's get into the patch matrix. As you can see here, it's fundamentally set up so that this left column here are all of the sources. So you have audio sources like oscillators, but you also have control signal sources like envelopes and all sorts of stuff like the joystick. And here on the other axis, you have inputs, so possible destinations. And right now I'm actually already running MIDI into the SYNTRX, but we don't hear anything, because if you don't patch anything, you're not going to hear a thing here, just like on a modular synth. So what I'm going to do, just to demonstrate the principle, if I would want to hear oscillator 1, I would have to look for it here, oscillator 1, and look for the corresponding point here for the output. So in this case it's here. And now I click, and now we hear the first oscillator. Yeah, it's that simple actually. But that's obviously kind of a boring patch, just an oscillator with no envelope and nothing. So I could also, of course, if I would, for example, first want to filter it, I could take oscillator 1, put it into the filter, and then instead of going directly into the output, I take the filter signal here and I put that into the output. So now the oscillator goes into the filter and that one goes into the output. All right, but now let's create an actual patch. What could we do? For example, I'm thinking of taking both oscillators, 1 and 2, and the noise generator, and putting all of them in the filter. So oscillator 1, oscillator 2, and noise all go into the filter. Now we still don't hear anything. Let's up next go from the filter. So we search for the filter here again, which is here, and go into the envelope. So now everything is being filtered. Afterwards, there's an envelope applied to the volume. Now we could look for the envelope signal here to take. Now our signal is here and we have to take it again and, for example, put it into the reverb. So now we look for the reverb input. And now finally we are allowed to patch the reverb into the output of channel 1. And now we have all three things here, the oscillator, second oscillator, and the noise, all of which have an envelope and reverb. And there's already plenty of fun we could have with, yeah, just a super primitive patch already. And we shouldn't forget to patch everything into the meter. So now we can actually see what we're doing here on the VU meter. All right, so now why don't we go ahead and apply some effects on the computer afterwards, like a delay by Native Instruments, a flanger, albeit a subtle one, and lastly, Eventide's amazing black hole reverb. Oh, damn. And now there's already plenty of fun we could have with that. But to make it even more fun, we might consider taking the filter cut off and controlling it with the joystick, because it's more fun than this. So I want to control it on this axis, which means I have it here, the vertical and horizontal axis as individual control patch points, basically. So I want to take the vertical axis and control the filter frequency, this one. Yeah. And now, ta-da! And this one is actually in the mount for the joystick. So I can control the filter by just 100% or 50% and so on. Yeah, I would want to have it somewhere around here. All right, now I can actually take the second axis, the horizontal axis, and I could use that here to control the decay of the envelope, which is a fun combination. Yeah, because now I should be able to open the filter here with long notes. Yeah, here with long notes and here with short notes. And now there's already plenty of performative expression. Just with very little actually that I'm doing here. This is a super basic patch on, it's basically a patch like every synth ever. But just because of the joystick and because these oscillators and filters just sound so sick. This is already pretty effing expressive. Now obviously I could play around with the octave here of the oscillator. And as you might have noticed, the second oscillator in my case is actually synced to VCO1. This doesn't mean that it has the exact same frequency, but at every cycle of the oscillator 1 frequency it's going to restart. So it's somewhat independent and somewhat linked. So even if it's kind of out of tune, this higher sound here, it's in a relation with the first oscillator because it's synced to it. Yeah, which is beautiful to create these abstract sounds that are still somewhat related to the actual harmony. Or in this case, it's just a monophonic melody. But due to the delay, it's kind of like a harmony. Alright, I guess you get the basic idea. Why, however, do I love the idea of a patch matrix so much? Obviously, of course, it's super similar to modular synthesis. It's basically the same idea, but a different mechanism really to achieve the same thing. But there's just a certain inspiration for me personally in the efficiency. You have these millions of combinations with just 16 options each in such a tiny real estate, but you have, I don't know, 16 to the power of 16 possible patches to be done here. And another benefit, obviously, even though I love patching cables on my Buchla or Moog or whatever, is that all of this free space here, which isn't covered in cables, is now free to easily access everything in a performative way to inject emotion into the sound. In a very intuitive and free way. And that's obviously also part of the brilliant design of the original Synthi and VCS3 by EMS, which also translated into the SYNTRX. And everyone who's looking into a budget option should be waiting maybe for the Behringer version, because Behringer is actually working on a EMS VCS3 clone, and it's actually the first clone that Behringer does that I'm personally really excited about, and I'm actually considering buying. But let's first wait and see when they finish it. Alright, I guess that's it from my side for today. In case you have any questions, let me know below and I'll try and get back to you. Apart from that, thanks for tuning in. See you next time. Peace out.